beautiful homemakers. Today we are continuing the July chapters of 1,000 Ways to Please a Husband with Bettina's Best Recipes. Chapter 22 is called Buying a Refrigerator, which in those times was an icebox. "Something in refrigerators?" said the clerk politely to Mrs. Dixon and Bettina. "You talk to him," said Mrs. Dixon. "I don't know a thing about a refrigerator. That's why I begged you to come." "Well," considered Bettina, her red-brown head on one side, "we want one that will hold not less than 100 pounds of ice. The large ones are much more economical in the long run. Here, Mrs. Dixon, is a 100-pound fellow. May we examine it, please?" "Certainly, madame." "No, this won't do. See, Mrs. Dixon, the trap is in the bottom of the food chamber. That is wasteful and inconvenient, because in cleaning it you would have to leave the door of the larger compartment open. That would let the cold air out and waste the ice. Anyhow, you know the trap is the sewer of the refrigerator and has no business in the food chamber. The trap really ought to be in the bottom of the ice chamber, where it can be cleaned without removing the food or opening the door of the food compartment. Besides, I prefer to have the ice put in at a door on the side of the front, not on the top. Yes, here is the kind I mean. I like this trap, too. See, Mrs. Dixon? Isn't it fine? It has a white enamel lining and shelves of open wire that can be removed. It looks nice, doesn't it? And when I get some white shelf paper on those shelves, it will be like an attractive cupboard. Oh, no, my dear, you mustn't do that. That would prevent the circulation of air through the icebox, which is the very thing that makes a food compartment cold. You see, the circulation of air goes on through these open wire shelves. Another thing, I've seen people cover the ice with newspapers to keep it from melting, as they thought, but they were mistaken. Any friction causes warmth, and ice keeps better when there is nothing touching it. Well, if you like this one, I'll ask the price of it. It will be expensive, I'm afraid, but the most economical in the long run. Are you staying downtown to meet Mr. Dixon?" "Yes, I'd like him to see the refrigerator. He takes such an interest in these household things I'm getting. Well, good-bye, dear. I must hurry home to get dinner. It won't take long, but I'll have to go, or Bob will get there first, and I'm a little sentimental about being there to greet him at the door." Bettina's dinner that night consisted of broiled lamb chops, boiled new potatoes, new peas and cream, vegetable salad, bread, butter, and rhubarb pudding. Chapter 23, Bettina's Sunday Dinner. "This seems like old times," remarked Mr. Dixon, as he and his wife strolled leisurely home from church with Bob and Bettina. "I haven't had this peaceful Sunday feeling since I was a youngster. Then all the Sundays were like this, cool, quiet, and sunny, sprinkled all over with little girls in smooth curls and white leghorn hats, and little boys in uncomfortable hot clothes a size too large, and newly polished shoes. I often recall the plentiful Sunday dinners, too." "Don't get your hopes up too high," said Bettina, "though I will promise you one treat, wild roses on the table. Bob and I walked out into the country last evening and found them." "What can I do?" inquired Mrs. Dixon when she and Bettina were alone in the kitchen. "You can sit there and talk to me while these potatoes are cooking and the veal birds are getting done. You see, the birds have already cooked 3/4 of an hour this morning before I went to church. The waxed beans are in the fireless cooker. I have to make the butter sauce for them. And you see, I have the new potatoes all prepared, standing in cold water. I have only to cook them in boiling salted water till they are done. That won't take long, as they aren't large. I set the table on the porch this morning. Bob can make the coffee in the percolator in a little while, when we're ready. He usually starts it when we come to the table, and then it's ready in time to serve last. By the way, if you like the Thousand Island dressing we're to have for the head of lettuce, I'd like to give you the recipe. It's a very popular one just now. Oh, I've eaten it. Frank is very fond of it, and used to order it every chance he could at the hotel. Will you really tell me how to make it? So many good dinners now end with the salad and cheese and coffee, and I think Thousand Island dressing on head lettuce makes a splendid salad. Of course I'll show you. Well, the iced cantaloupe, which is our first course, is in the icebox. Our dessert today is just cake with chocolate cream frosting and coffee. It is such a simple Sunday dinner, but that's the kind I believe in. Bettina's Sunday dinner consisted of iced cantaloupe, veal birds, boiled new potatoes, gravy, waxed beans, butter sauce, bread, butter, head lettuce, Thousand Island dressing, salt wafers, cake with chocolate cream frosting, and coffee. Chapter 24. Bettina visits a tea room. Aren't you a bit timid about driving? Asked Bettina as she stepped into the car beside Mrs. Dixon. Not now. You see, I've been practicing every evening with Frank, and he says that I'm as good a driver as he is. Oh, Bettina, we're having so much fun these days. The little house is a great success, and I'm really learning to cook. I've had some dreadful failures, but Frank doesn't seem to mind. You see, I know he gets a good meal downtown at noon, so I don't worry about him. Look, Charlotte, what lovely goldenrod! We must stop and get some. Don't you love it? Indeed I do. I have a rough brown waste paper basket that it looks stunning in. I set the jar of goldenrod right inside. Frank is very fond of it. Charlotte, you're just like a bride yourself, thinking about Frank's likes and dislikes. Am I? Laughed Mrs. Dixon as her color rose. Well, lately Frank seems just like his old self. He appreciates everything so, and is so nice at home. And it seems that he can hardly get home quickly enough. We have enjoyed getting things settled and planning our future. Next year we may build a house of our own, but I don't care to have it too large to manage easily. Are you going to stop here? Asked Bettina, as Mrs. Dixon slowed down after a peaceful stretch of level road. Yes, I want to show you something. A short path led to a small house close to the road, but almost hidden in a tangle of flowers and wild grapevines. Isn't this a cunning little rustic place? Asked Charlotte. 2 friends of mine started it, see? She pointed to the sign over the door. It's called the Friendly Inn. Inside you'll find that quotation about living in a house at the side of the road and being a friend to every man. You know that one. I'll link the poem in my website. These girls live on that farm over there. When they came home from college, they wanted something to do, some way to earn money, but they didn't care to leave home. This is such a splendid road that the autos swarm past all summer long. These girls open this little tea room and serve luncheons and tea here all summer. Most of their supplies come directly from the farm. It is just a pleasant drive from the city, and many people like to come out here in the afternoon. I'll introduce you to the girls. Bettina found the innkeepers charming, and after a short conversation, she and Mrs. Dixon ordered tomato cup salad, iced tea, bread and butter sandwiches, vanilla ice cream, chocolate sauce, and marshmallow cakes. Chapter 25. Bettina entertains Alice and Mr. Harrison. "By the way, Bettina," said Bob over the phone, "I saw Harrison and asked him out to dinner tonight. He said he was to call on Alice later, so I suggest that you invite her, too." Bettina smiled to herself at Bob's casual tone. Ought she to ask him not to invite company without consulting her? No, she decided emphatically. Company or no company, our meals shall be simple, but good enough for anybody. I'll not change mine for Alice and Mr. Harrison. I'm sure they'll like it just as it is. "To tell the truth, Bettina," said Alice's vivacious voice over the telephone, "I'd love to come if it weren't for that man." "But Alice, you're going to see him later." "I know, worse luck. He is the most insufferable person I know. You see, last night we had a little argument, and he was very rude." "Maybe he's coming to apologize." "Don't you imagine it! He couldn't. He dislikes society girls above all other people." "Oh, Alice." "Well, he does. He told me so evening before last, out at the park." "Seems to me you're seeing a good deal of him for a man you feel that way about." "Well, you started it. You told me that he was a woman-hater, and I thought it would be fun to reform him. At first he thought me fine and sensible, but lately I've been showing him how frivolous I really am. I suppose I hoped that by this time he'd approve of everything I said and did, but he won't. He seems actually be trying to reform me, and I won't be reformed. I could never be anything but frivolous Alice if I wanted to. I hate those big, slow, serious men without any fun in them." "Cheer up, my dear," laughed Bettina. "Come tonight, anyhow. I like the frivolous kind, whether he does or not." That evening, much to Bettina's secret amusement, Mr. Harrison and Alice met on the doorstep. "Don't think we came together," explained Alice flippantly. "A dinner and an evening of me are about all Mr. Harrison can endure." "I couldn't have spared the time anyhow, Miss Alice. You see, I'm a busy man, and the people who are doing worthwhile things in this world are obliged to overlook some of the amenities." It was on Bettina's tongue to inquire how a busy man found time to make so many calls as he was making now, but she refrained, knowing well that lively Alice could hold her own with any man in the universe, even though she might not be doing the things that Mr. Harrison considered worthwhile. "A fine dinner," said he to Bettina as they sat down at the table. "I admire a woman who knows how to prepare and serve food. She is paying her way in the most dignified and worthwhile profession of all, that of a homemaker." "Mr. Harrison," asked Alice severely, "may I inquire whether or not you know how to drive insects out of cabbage before serving it?" "I'm afraid I don't." "Well, I'm surprised, for even I know that. Bettina just told me. You place the cabbage head downward in cold water, to each quart of which has been added a tablespoon of vinegar." "Silly Alice," said Bettina, "don't tease. Look at my lovely pansies. Alice, I believe you gave me that flower holder when I announced my engagement." "When I announced my engagement," said Alice. Bettina saw a strange and startled look come over Mr. Harrison's face, which immediately departed when Alice added, "Which will be years hence, no doubt. I hope my friends will give me nothing useful. I love to come here, Bettina, but I'm not a natural-born housekeeper like you. I shall marry an idle millionaire, and we will do nothing but travel aimlessly about from one end of the world to the other. That is my idea of perfect happiness." That night for dinner Bettina served pork chops, potatoes maitre d'hotel butter, bread, butter, cabbage salad served in lemon halves, coconut blancmange, custard sauce, and iced tea. Chapter 26. Over the Telephone. Bob and Bettina were at breakfast one morning when the telephone rang. "It's Mrs. Dixon, Bettina," said Bob, his hand over the mouthpiece. "Much excited, panicky, house afire, hurry." "Hello, Charlotte," said Bettina quickly. "What in the world is the trouble?" "The worst yet," came a nervous voice. "Frank's Aunt Isabel is to be at our house tonight. Oh, I wish you knew her. She never did approve of me." "Oh, Charlotte, you just imagine that. She wouldn't come if she disliked you so." "That's just it. She didn't approve of me when we lived at the hotel, and now that we've taken a house, she wants to see how things are." "Well, things are fine. Doesn't Frank say so?" "Well, yes, of course, but the meals. 2 company meals to get, and for a critical person like her, too. What on earth shall I do?" "Now, don't be nervous, Charlotte. It's easy. We'll think of a delicious little dinner that you can prepare mostly beforehand. When does she arrive?" 5 o'clock, and leaves just after breakfast." "Good. 2 simple meals and all day in which to get them ready. Let's see. The weather is warm, so you will prefer a dinner that's partly cold. Watermelon that has been in the refrigerator all day will be a simple dessert, with no cake or anything else to think of. How about cold boiled tongue for your main dish, sliced thin and garnished with parsley? You might also have a very good salad. Apple, celery, and green pepper salad would be delicious and economical also. Then you might have corn on the cob. I've had it recently and know how good it is. That would be the only thing you would have to think of at mealtime, and it's very easy to cook. You would serve it in a napkin to keep it hot. Then I want to send you some peach butter that I made the other day. That would go beautifully with your dinner. There, you have it all. If I were doing it, I should add iced tea to drink, served very daintily, with sliced lemon and mint leaves. Oh, Bettina, how good it sounds. Will you repeat that menu for me?" Cold boiled tongue, apple, celery, and green pepper salad, golden bantam corn on the cob, bread, butter, peach butter, iced tea, lemon, sliced watermelon. Now, if you'll get a pencil and paper, I will give you some directions about cooking. Chapter 27. Bettina has a baking day. "Why, Ruth, I didn't hear you come in." "The door was partly open. Bob must have left it that way, and I slipped in quickly to see what you were up to. It's raining as if it never intended to stop. I called to Bob on his way downtown and asked what you were doing today. He said that wonderful baking preparations were going on because you expected his sister Polly and her 3 children tomorrow. That sounded like a deluge. All those lively youngsters, and Polly livelier yet. So I came over to see if I couldn't help." "Indeed you can, Ruth. That was dear of you. We'll have a houseful, won't we? I have planned to put Polly and Dorothy and the baby in the guest room, but Donald will have to sleep on the davenport. And I'm planning to do most of the cooking today, so that tomorrow we can visit and see people and show the children the sights. They are coming this afternoon, and will be here Sunday and Monday at least. As soon as I finish filling these salt shakers, I'll begin the baking." "Goodness, it will certainly be a help to have you here, Ruth. You were such a dear to come in all this rain." "Oh, I like it. I always learn so much from you, Bettina. But what on earth are you doing with that rice?" "Just putting a few grains in the shakers. You know salt gets damp on a rainy day like this, and the rice loosens it and absorbs the moisture. I'm doing it first because I might forget." "What are you going to make?" "Well, I'll cook some potatoes and beets to warm up or make salad of, and I'll make a veal loaf and a white cake, I think. Then some salad dressing, and a berry pie and some sour cream cookies. Oh, yes, some nut bread and some tomato gelatin, too. Goodness, can you use all those things? Yes, indeed. For tonight's dinner I'll have lamb chops, and some of the cooked potatoes creamed in tomato gelatin and the blackberry pie. You know berry pies ought to be eaten soon after they are made. If tomorrow is a nice day, we'll eat our dinner in the park, and in any case I'll be prepared, for I'll have the veal loaf, and the beets to warm up, and the rest of the potatoes to cream or make salad of, and the nut bread for sandwiches if we need them, and the cake, and some sliced peaches for dessert. And the cookies? Well, children always want cookies. I'll bake these on my big baking sheets just the size of the oven, and I'll put lots of raisins on top. Bettina, what fun it would be to visit you. But we must get at our work. Our Polly and family will be here before this big baking is done. Chapter 28. Polly and the Children. Will you look at the way that child eats her cereal? Ejaculated Polly at the breakfast table. And I simply can't get her to eat it at home. In fact, on warm days like this, she won't eat any breakfast at all. I like Aunt Betty's cereal. It looks so pretty, explained little Dorothy gravely, looking down at her plate of molded cereal surrounded by plump red raspberries. I hope you don't mind my serving it cold today, said Bettina. It seemed so warm yesterday that I cooked the cereal and put it in molds in the refrigerator. No, indeed, the change is a regular treat for the children. They like fixed-up things like this, and it certainly does give anyone an appetite. Well, in hot weather no one feels much like eating anyhow, so I try to make things as attractive as I can. And I want the children to have just what they like. You needn't be afraid of this cream, Polly. We buy it from a neighbor, and I am absolutely sure that it is both clean and good. I am ashamed to say that we have no certified milk in this town. Isn't that dreadful? And people keep on buying it of dairies that they don't know one thing about. Why, I've seen women who had just moved to town and knew nothing about conditions here, begin housekeeping by cleaning house thoroughly from top to bottom, and at the same time leave an order for milk with the first dairy wagon that happened to drive down their street. And they buy groceries and meat from the nearest stores without knowing that 3 blocks away there may be other stores that are better, cleaner, and less expensive. Shouldn't you think that women would insist upon knowing all about the food they are giving their children? It seems to me that much common sense in a housewife is a great deal more important than even knowing how to cook and sew. I think that knowing how to plan and buy is more important than knowing how to do things with your hands, said Polly. After all, it's the result that counts. You're a wonder, Bettina, because you have a useful head and useful hands, too, but I haven't. So I try to know as much as possible about every article of food and clothing that I buy, and to be sure that I am getting the very best value from Tom's money. But I don't know how to cook or sew or trim hats or embroider. I like friends and babies and outdoor exercise, but I'll confess that I don't like housework. Well, Tom and the children seem to be perfectly contented and happy, and so do you. Therefore, you are a successful housekeeper. You are the right kind of a sister-in-law to have, Betty. I quite approve of Bob's choice. The breakfast that morning consisted of molded cream of wheat, raspberries, sugar, cream, poached eggs on toast, and coffee. This ends the July chapters. May God bless you as you try to find 1,000 ways to please your man. Bye.